Evening, folks. What's up with y'all? It's your boy Donald King. Here to do my thing. It's been a busy day, man. It's been a productive day. Got a chance to hang out with a new friend. Um, got some cookies. Some vegan cookies in a couple of different locations today, and that was pretty cool. So it's all coming together. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't know. That's the point. I don't know. That's the point of tonight's podcast. How sure of you are? How sure are you of what you think you know? You know, many moons ago, when I was a regular schmo, or at least fancy myself one, I spent a lot of time um, doing everything that I thought was the right thing to do. I colored inside the lines. I was going to be the exception to the rule because I was going to play the game the way it's supposed to be played and come out on top. I knew that my formula would pay off for me so long as I worked the plan. And guess what? It didn't. It didn't. Everything that I thought my life was going to be, well, reality dropped a sort of bombshell in my lap and was like, hey, yeah, you're not one of them. You're a different type of thing. And all of a sudden, everything that I thought I knew I was going to do with my life went completely out the window. I had all my knowledge and it was of no use. Do you know the reason why humans value knowledge so much? Because when building knowledge systems actually help them sort of theorize and model what exists beyond perceptibility. Knowledge helps you make sense of things that you cannot perceive yet. You use the collective wisdom and the collective learning and the collective theorizing of people whose lives extend beyond your own to try and model how reality exists beyond what can be perceived. That's why prophecy and prediction are so meaningful to humans. That's why they're so essential. You want to know. Why do humans want to know? Because they don't have an intuitive connection to reality. They lack an inherent understanding for how they exist in relation to the universe. Hey, Sister Elizabeth, how you doing, sweetie? They lack an inherent awareness for an understanding of how they exist in relation to the universe. So they create knowledge systems, which in essence are based in belief and in idealism, which basically fall back to agreements they make with themselves about how things are. That's what knowledge is. Knowledge is an agreement that you make with yourself regarding how things are, which generally sources back to what other people have sort of measured and observed and theorized and agreed upon from beyond your experience. You know, in one of the groups I'm in, someone today, they were talking about like how scientists or theoretical scientists, how close they are to proving reality is a simulation. They're coming up with this theory, right? And one of the funny things about this this notion of humans trying to say what reality is and what reality must necessarily entail is that we don't have the tools to even get off this planet effectively, yet we're trying to say how all things are and or must be from this tiny bubble of conceptualization. We can't even solve problems related to how to survive without transforming the world around us in order to offset our natural limitations and deficits. Yet here we are in the height of narcissism, thinking we have the tools, we have the mental bandwidth to say how all of reality must be. It's a misnomer. Reality is not a simulation, and this is what I was trying to explain to one of the gentlemen who was interacting with me. Reality can't be a simulation because simulation implies an artificial construct. An artificial construct has to be contained within a system of mechanism, and wherever that system of mechanism exists, well, that would be reality. So there's a difference between reality being a simulation and our experience in reality being a simulation. But if you don't have the mental bandwidth to realize that, then you go on making agreements with yourself about how things must be based on knowledge systems you've created and or accepted and internalized, which have nothing to do with reality as a system. How do you know? How do you know? How do I know? I tell everybody I'm an avatar. I didn't decide on this. I didn't believe such things existed prior to my experience going to heaven and prior to my encounters with the other avatars or astral projecting throughout the body of the universe and all these other things. I didn't believe such things could exist. And it raises a very interesting question. How do you know things are the way you sort of understand them and you recognize them to be and you see them, Donald King? And the question is, and the answer to the question is, I don't. I am very aware of the fact that there are significant limitations on my abilities for knowledge manufacturing and knowledge acquisition. I am significant. I'm so aware of it. So the only thing that I have to test it against is I test what I see through this perspective that's been afforded to me against human knowledge systems, and what I see comes out on top every time. There's no statistic to apply to it. Every time I come out more accurate. Every time. And even when I'm not, even especially towards the earlier stages of learning how to use the avatar perspective properly, once I started looking at things properly and learning how to use this thing, I skated past human knowledge systems because what I'm doing isn't based in idealism. You can literally apply measures to what I do and measures to what I say, and you can chart it over the years and you'll see that, well, I've been consistent. So do I know that what I see is correct? No. Can I compare what I see in the way of consistency to human knowledge systems to see what produces a more accurate sort of schematic of how things are and or fit together? Yeah. Do I do that regularly to make sure that what I think I understand and what I think I see is consistent with reality? Absolutely. Why? Because I don't know. What do you think you know? What do you know? Oh, Sister Elizabeth comes back in. So far, so good, man. Glad to be here. This being spoken on. What we think we know. Dialects. Very nice, sister. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. I don't know. Because I don't know, I stay in a state of humility. If something comes along tomorrow and shows me that it's more consistent with reality than I think I am, and it makes more sense than what I'm saying, then guess what I'm going with? I'm going with that. If somebody can come along and show me that I'm full of bullshit and that what I think I see is off, and they can demonstrate it beyond a shadow of a doubt, then guess what I'm going with? I'm going with whatever's most consistent with reality. When you acquire knowledge, you have the strong desire to defend your knowledge. Your knowledge in what you think is knowledge, it becomes an extension of your identity. When it becomes an extension of your identity, then you develop cognitive dissonance. You experience cognitive dissonance whenever something critically challenges what you think you know. There are lots of people who've been monitoring me for years, waiting for me for years. And they have these knowledge systems, all this information that says, I'm the enemy and I must be stopped and I must be subdued. And what it really boils down to is showing up and telling people, hey, you can't do whatever the fuck you want in a system that was here before you. That's the whole thing that I'm saying, literally. Like, no, there are consequences. You can't live consequence-free in a system that has rules that have absolutely nothing to do with the things that you agree to among yourselves. It's it. It's that simple. Reality was here first. Reality had rules first. You can't come along, create your own rules, and then get mad at reality for not playing along with you. If all of your understanding for reality derives from human knowledge systems, then of course you're going to think that you are the master of destiny. And that if you just acquire enough knowledge, why, you will be able to shape the world around you to make the life you want for yourself. Make yourself safe. Unfortunately, you're a hostile agent performing within a system that doesn't give a shit about what you feel and believe. And everything you do to create negative impacts and or create imbalances, it all gets charged back to you. But you wouldn't understand that if you only looked to human knowledge systems for guidance. What do you know? What do you know? I don't describe what I think I know. I describe what I see. That means that it's like, because I'm describing what I see, I don't have to know. It's all binary. It's all ones and zeros. Well, actually, quaternary. It's zeros intersecting into ones, twos, and threes, and sort of extensions thereof. But yeah, I'm describing what I see. I don't need to know anything. It's kind of like reading a computer screen. If I'm reading what's directly on a computer screen, the only thing that I have to do is understand the language that I'm reading in order to translate exactly what it is that I see into sound bites that people around me can understand and consume. The only knowledge I'm required, or the only knowledge required of me, or that I'm required to have, has to do with my ability for conveyance towards describing what I see. Beyond that, I don't need any knowledge. And then people come to me trying to pit their knowledge against someone who's describing what they can see in real time, and they lose every time. You want to know why? Because knowledge cannot defeat sight. I want you to imagine like this. Imagine you had all these stories about Disney World. You read all these stories, you saw drawn illustrations of Mickey and Donald, and people told you about Epcot Center and Captain EO ride when that was a thing. People told you about all these, and you had all these expectations based on this knowledge you acquired and amassed. And lo and behold, you get there, and it's a completely different experience. Someone who's actually been to Disney World versus your knowledge of what Disney World must be like, their understanding of what they saw versus what you theorize will always surpass yours. It's simple. It's simple. What do you think you know? I don't think I know anything. People who only have knowledge come to me trying to beat me up with what they know, and they don't even know the limits of what they know. Let me check down here in the comments. Oops, dialectics. Hello. I know that I don't know. Very nice, sister. Yeah. But that's the whole thing. How much of your life do you base on what you know? You know, it's really funny. When this whole business about the novel coronavirus came out, you had all these people trying to assert authority. Tell other people, you just need to conform. You just need to accept what the authorities are saying. You do what the authorities say. The funny part about it is the authorities didn't even know what they were talking about. And they didn't get anything by me. It's like I caught every single thing that they did. So, you know, it's like I tracked that shit clean. And then I was looking at it through the Avatar perspective, and I'm like, but I'm not going to get into all that. Funny thing about it is, here you had all these people trying to assert authority on shit they didn't know. Somebody in a position of social authority said a thing, and then all of a sudden they made an agreement with themselves that what they heard gave them a leg up in understanding over everyone else. They made agreements with themselves that their knowledge somehow put them at the front of the pack in terms of deserving. And they sound like idiots. I know. What do you know? What percentage of what you think you know is third-party discovery, determinations, and perspectives? How much of what you know derives directly from shit you heard? As a matter of fact, I'm not going to even give you an opportunity to answer that. 99% of what you think you know comes from shit you heard from other people. Period. 99% of what you think you know comes from shit you heard or learned from other people. And when you start breaking it down, you start getting into the nooks and the crannies and start really seeing how much of what you think you know actually derives from your experience and from your experimentation and from your due diligence to actually explore and investigate things, you realize very quickly that your knowledge is very lacking. Back to this point about humans trying to theorize about what reality is and or must entail. Reality is a simulation. You can't even get off the planet. In order to actually measure reality beyond the scope of theory, you would actually have to have tools big enough to perform outside the expanse of reality itself, or at the very least powerful enough to scale properly from within the system. But you can't, it's just dumb trying to theorize what all of reality must entail when you don't even understand how your own intelligence works. I put out a series a few years ago called Organizing Intelligence, right? In this series, I was talking about the mechanism behind how intelligence works as two systems. We talk about the system of natural organization in terms of how intellect works. And then I got into how perceptive valuation works, how parasitic thinking works. It's two different systems of intelligence. One runs on the system runs through the mode of corruption. The other operates through the system of natural organization. But I'm breaking it down, and when I understood, I was like, oh shit. When I started breaking it down, I'm like, oh man, humans don't even have like the basic framework to create AI that either won't destroy them or that won't actually link into something that they were predestined to do, kind of like a species going through a chrysalis phase, if that makes sense, or an organism going through a chrysalis phase, in which case they would become, you know, the extraterrestrials they see right now. I'm reading Principles, so you have to forgive me because it's like principles and English don't always go together so perfectly. But the point of it is, humans don't even understand how intelligence works. So think about it like this. Humans don't even understand how intelligence works, yet they rush to assert authority when it comes to assigning intelligence quotients. IQ is the most stupid shit I've ever heard in my entire life. How are you asserting authority on a system you don't even understand how it works? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Now, I want you to imagine it like this. Imagine stepping into an ocean, getting to a point where the water is like waist high, and then trying to tell what the entire ocean, trying to assert authority on what the entire ocean is comprised of and the types of life forms in there, based on you standing near the beach in water waist high. That's how ridiculous humans are trying to assert authority on intelligence. That's how ridiculous humans are trying to assert authority on reality. And then with reality, it's like they're not even close to the beach. They're far inland talking about what's going on at the bottom of the ocean. It's fucking retarded. It's dumb. It's dumb. And this is what it boils down to. What do you know? What do you think you know? Knowledge, assuming your knowledge gives you any sort of leg up over anyone else, building an identity around your knowledge, it traces back to narcissism. It traces back to narcissism. You don't have the tools to know how accurate what you think you know actually is. And to go around trying to assert authority on shit you can't verify, it makes you dumb. It makes people perform stupidly. And I'm saying this as a person who used to do it too, so never think that it's like I'm talking down to anybody. When I went to heaven, dog, I was an atheist. I was a self-proclaimed atheist because I knew. Imagine standing face to face with an entity you spent a better part of a decade telling people they were stupid for believing in. Imagine standing in its presence or being in its presence. It big dogs you real quick. Like, oh, you was talking shit, huh? No, sir. See, what happened was... I learned my lesson, though. I got to see firsthand how limited my knowledge was. One of the things that's really interesting about knowledge is that knowledge, it works in two ways. It can be good when or if you use it as a tool, but it's usually bad because people try to use it as a weapon. Again, a tool is an instrument you use for accomplishing tasks with and or advancing with, right? But a weapon is an instrument you use to subdue, invalidate, or push others back with, intimidate them, hurt them. Most people who acquire knowledge and who try to, use knowledge against others, they try to use knowledge as a weapon. Well, I know this. Well, I know that. Well, I know this. Well, I know that. And it makes them dumb. One of the things that I hate more than anything when I'm trying to talk to people is when they start going out of their way to try and create knowledge contests, because it's like they're afraid of whatever level of potency I demonstrate in conveying the principles that I see. The first thing that they try to do is try to weaponize their little knowledge against me. Well, did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know that? What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm not trying to compete against you. Why are you trying to weaponize what you think you know against me? Let's just compare perspectives. Let's talk it out. I want to understand you. How is what you're saying relevant to the discourse at hand? How does that add momentum to or illuminate different areas of the thing we're already talking about? And if I could speak on their behalf, I'm just saying this because I want to matter too. I want to prove that I matter too. And the worst part about it is you when you come to me, you always mattered. When I talk to you, it's because you mattered to me already. It's because you mattered already. So I have no interest in knowledge contests. Though I'd be remiss to not mention that I've engaged in quite a few, just to kind of see where I'm at in terms of understanding and how accurate what I see and or purport to see is. Lots of people trying to prove me wrong and direct me to philosophers that they idealize and sort of want to emulate, but put me in a position to see what else is out there. I mean, if I see everything through this perspective and the perspective is consistent to me, how consistently does it perform as compared to or when pitted against human knowledge systems? You got to know these things. You got to learn these things. And through the process of actually testing myself and testing what I claim to see against what humans have theorized and measured, which is still theory, turns out that what I see is accurate. Do I know that it'll always be that way? No. Am I afraid of losing the knowledge that I am, at least presently, more accurate than society and convention? No. Because knowledge has to do, in the defense of knowledge, it has to do with defending the ego. Ego plays no part in what I'm doing. Something comes along that's better, it's simply better. End of discussion. It's done. After I look at it through the perspective, and I'm like, I don't see any flaws or holes or dings or any of those other things, and the pseudo armor is intact completely. And I'm like, damn, your shit is bigger than mine, homie. Let's rock with you. Let's rock with you. But getting rid of the notion that I had knowledge that made me superior to others is the only reason I'm able to perform on the levels I'm able to perform on now. I don't try to predict the future because, well, you can't know what exists beyond perceptibility. Imagine imagine knowing what was going to happen 3 months from now, but then tomorrow the sun exploding. What would have happened to your knowledge of what was going to happen in society if something meta to society and meta to our experience here on earth came along and completely invalidated it? You can't know. Let me see. Sister Sorrel came back in 9 minutes ago. As long as they know they are only human. Yeah? Yeah, I agree. Knowledge limits you to humanity. Conversely, as you continue to get honest, and I want to really circle back to that point, we have to get honest with ourselves about what we think we know. What are the limits of your knowledge? Where'd you get your knowledge from? Where does it, where does your actual understanding for the knowledge you have begin and end? You know, when you start practicing honesty, you start practicing reasoning. Again, and I'm going to just go through this frame real quick. If reality is the meta system, that's also the, I don't know, the curator, and maybe curator might not be the right word. If reality is the meta system, the living sentient self-aware being that manages balance between systems, perfect accountant, then think about it like this. If reality is God, then truth is simply what's consistent with and actual within reality. Honesty is the individual's will and effort to recognize and be in sync with reality. Reasoning is using the mental faculties to suss out what is most consistent with reality, and intuition is the sort of gateway or portal through which reality and you interact. Reality can communicate with you as a function of the system through your faculty of intuition. Intuition expands your realm, your sphere of awareness for the greater meta systems you perform within, which is why when you get an intuitive inclination, it precedes whatever step you are about to take. Why is it important to understand that? Because the more honest you are, the more you reason, is the more you develop and enhance your faculty of intuition. It is a sensory faculty, by the way. The more you develop your intuition, is the less you need to rely on knowledge. When you perform at the level of a meta, you can assimilate into knowledge systems, and that's tough. Oh my God, assimilating into human knowledge systems is tough. It's tough. Dude, I'm sitting here and I'll look over some shit that humans piece together, man. Like, I'll look at an engine system, and looking at it, it's just so much scribbles and language and all those other things. And it's like, if I understand the basic principles of something, then it's like, it's cool. But the knowledge systems, when you have an intellect that performs above the level of idealism and you try to compress that shit down into knowledge systems, it hurts your brain. You're like, fuck, Jesus Christ, this hurts. And it takes a while, and then once you get into it, it's kind of like fitting into your jeans from third grade. And imagine those motherfuckers are made of like Teflon, so they're not gonna rip. You fit into your jeans, but they stretch a little. You fit into your jeans from third grade, And then it's like you start trying to walk in them, and after you get in them for a while, they cut off your circulation. But after a while, you can start to run in them. But that's how it works, man. That's how it works. Most came from non-humans. Yeah. We are a recombinant species. We are a recombinant species. We were created. That means a life form, pathogen of sorts, came along, and it was like, I'm going to take a bit of a banana, and I'm going to take some of a chimpanzee, I'm going to take something from an eel, let's take a little bit of a snake, let's take a little bit of on and on down the line. I'm going to create a life form that's good for being a slave. Then I'm going to insert my RNA into it and tell it to be fruitful, become many, fill the body of this life form, this earth, and subdue it. And when they reach a certain level of proficiency, why, they will replicate the process as they are created in their maker's image. It's virology. Not hard. Extraterrestrials, whatever you call them, it all traces back to a parasitic twin universe. Parasitic twin universe says structural building blocks, both principle and material, sort of burrowing into and cannibalizing the body of its healthy sibling. We were created as a slave class. We were given the minds of slave drones, and as such, the only thing that we know how to do is think in terms of competition, narcissism, and aggression. Should you choose the mind and thinking of a drone? Now, every life form gets to ultimately decide whether or not they will internalize corruption. And if you choose not to internalize corruption, well, you'll probably be out of sync with what's happening in reality, but you'll more than likely be a hell of a lot more in sync with reality. So, yeah. Sister Sorrel comes back in. Let me see. Did you ask the ETs who made them? Because I did. I haven't actually spoken to the ETs yet. They, for some reason, this is what's really weird. Like, I would expected everybody to step forward by now. Like, this is happening. A function of the system of reality itself has stepped in and is talking to the cellular building blocks of this parasitic twin. Like, hey, you're out of sync with natural organization. Get your cells in check. As many of them as can be in check. Get them in order, because whoever's out of order, by the time I make these cuts, they got to go into the cleansing system. Whoever is still in a state of corruption by the time I make these cuts, you're going to have to catch this fade. So I'm legit surprised that ETs haven't reached out to me yet. Like, that's wild. Like, you would have expected at least the intelligence agencies or those who they answer to have had the balls to just step forward and be like, hey, let's at least have a dialogue with this person instead of trying to play him cool from afar and act like we don't see him. You fucking see me. You see me. I'm not hiding. I haven't been hiding this entire time. Like, it's not... You're only going to be in these bodies for a short period of time. Even extraterrestrials who might be calling shots from the top. Like, once the parasitic twin, once the reality makes that cause a freeze to the building blocks, and then it starts making cuts away to the corruption, to the corrupt cellular building blocks, all of the negative impacts that you've made through generations, like even if you're in hell right now, all that shit gets charged back to you. So everything is being compounded. It's just, it's added interest. Like, it's bad. It's bad. And again, I'm in a situation where I'm able to see the bigger picture, and I'm kind of like, this is fucked up because it wasn't. It's like, of all the evil beings and entities in the world right now, and in or around the world or throughout the body of the universe, it's all beings born into a circumstance they're not responsible for. That sucks. It's not fair. A lot of the people who are at the top of society right now doing the absolute most disgusting shit right now are still products of a circumstance they had no hand in creating, that they're only contributing to at this point. But they persist in contributing to these imbalances because they're running off of knowledge systems. They're not actually syncing up with reality, and certainly not doing anything to coordinate the one entity they know that is synced to reality right now, to coordinate anything with. Like, you're trying to stick to your knowledge systems. Your pride is like, oh, we're lording it over humans. As long as we're beating humans, then, I mean, our knowledge systems must be true. And that shit doesn't apply to metas. It doesn't apply. Like, you have to understand the system of reality at large. You can't just stand with your feet in the ocean, thinking that what you theorize based on what you can see on the surface, necessarily entails everything that goes on beneath the waters. I mean, shit, step up to Aquaman. Like, just like, hey, I mean, shit, I can take you as deep as I can go, and I'll explain to you what I see, and I have no agenda in it. I'm not trying to. My desire to want to help even the worst people stems from the fact that I know this is unfair. Maybe you all don't have a strong maybe you have a strong inner sense of justice, but you don't have a strong sense of balance. I have a very strong sense of balance. You can call it ethical, but I'm just wired to try and help. If I see somebody struggling, even if they're a piece of shit to me, guess who's going to step up and try and help? Unless you're trying to do something corrupt, in which case I'm going to probably fall back and let you fall on your face. But I understand that none of this shit is fair. None of it's fair. I'm going to do what I can to help. Let me see. Cicero comes back in. Would love to hear more about your Avatar experience. Love. We talk when the time comes for that. Absolutely. I'd love to. And I put up some videos about, my experience going to heaven, and it's like I've been talking about this Avatar stuff for a minute, but it's wild because, again, imagine, and again, it fell in my lap. It's not something that I earned. I definitely don't think it's something that I deserve. Like, if it were me, if it were up to me, I would have found somebody a hell of a lot more, better. I would have found somebody who I think is better to do this. Somebody who's a bit more strong of character and maybe a bit more durable in the way of how they're put together and whatnot. You got to be strong for this. And some days I'm like, yo, am I strong enough to pull this shit off? That's just me being honest. I don't know. But it doesn't stop me from not trying. And maybe that in itself, unto itself, maybe that's all that it takes, is just someone who's brave enough to just keep going until they can't go any further. In which case, maybe I'm a good fit. But we're going to ride this bitch till the wheels fall off. So that when this life is done, it can't be said I didn't do everything in my power to be everything that was required. Sister Elizabeth is in the house tonight. We got anybody else out there in the audience? We got... I'm enjoying the banter. Sister Elizabeth is right on time. Thank you for tuning in. You know, at the end of the day, the main goal for everything that I do is to help people learn how to get honest. We learn how to sort of morally sanitize dishonesty. We say not admitting to ourselves very obvious things is how we demonstrate value to our peers. You know, there are a lot of people in certain cultures who watch me do this stuff daily, and their allegiance to their culture has it so that they can't even admit to themselves that I make flawless sense. Like, part of their cultural identity is deflection. It's pretending like what's there isn't, when it so obviously is. And it's not just limited to any one culture. Like, when you start thinking about something like even Christian culture, and throughout the respective, sects of Christianity, people think that shunning information that says their beliefs are wrong is how they demonstrate value to their peer group. I prove that I'm a good person by blocking out things that make me question what I'm doing. By blocking out information and ideas that conflict with what I'm doing and what I'm told is correct to do. They learn how to turn a blind eye to very obvious things instead of investigating things that maybe challenge or undermine what they've committed to in the way of paths of progress. I had a buddy who defended going to a mega church, one of those prosperity ministry churches. Somehow these people congregating around themselves did the exact opposite of everything Jesus said to do. They did the big prayers, trying to sound impressive. They danced on and worshiped money. They danced on and worshiped money. The pastor said people were blocking their blessings from God by not bringing money to the church and building it up. This dude bought a private jet, and somehow his parishioners made their mind up that this was godly, even though Jesus said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Jesus' direct words. Yet, clinging to this myth, clinging to this narrative that someone claiming to represent Christ said they can do what they want to do, why, it blocked out it bastardized, it invalidated Jesus' own words. Love of money is the root of all evil. They went to these synagogues of Satan while claiming to worship Jesus. By claiming to know Jesus, in Jesus' own words, in the beginning of Matthew, I think it's Matthew 6, 5, 6, 7, and 8, basically denounced the entirety of Christianity. But when you block out information and ideas and you look at knowledge systems as opposed to actually syncing up with reality, they could have gone and read Jesus' words anytime they wanted to. They could have read them in proper context. They didn't have to do the dispensational thing. They could have just read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Hell, just the book of Matthew. Like, yeah, nah, this isn't the reality of what Jesus said. I gotta distance myself from that. I gotta shun that. No! I'm gonna let some men tell me stories that make it okay for me to do what I really want to do. And ye shall know them by their fruits. Let me see. Been one-on-one and been loving it. Ha ha ha. Hope many get to see this though. It's bang on. Very nice. I was talking about that today. Ha ha ha. Right. It has been one-on-one and it's like I'm enjoying it. You my people. Much love. Strong J. But yeah. This is what it boils down to, man. How honest are you about what you think you know? You see, I have to be honest with myself about what I know. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know anything. I'm very fortunate that I can see things that sort of give me the means to bypass knowledge systems and to bypass idealism entirely. But even in that, I don't know that what I see is 100% correct. So I don't, first of all, knowledge is belief. Belief is an agreement you make with yourself about reality. I don't make agreements with myself about reality. I don't form beliefs. I can measure things, engage things, and compare. Hey, this flows with this flows with that. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I've learned is maybe it's not wise to sort of make agreements with myself about how things are. There's not a need to when I can always just investigate. Figure out what's what. So that being said, guys, we are going to call it a day. We're going to wrap it up. I have some things that I have to do. Ooh, today I made a vegan chocolate bundt cake. We're going to see how that turns out. I'm kind of excited. Yes. Trying a couple of new products out. We'll see how it goes. Y'all already know what it is. You can catch me Mondays and Wednesdays on Facebook Live. This is what I'm shooting this on right now. Much love to you too, Sister Elizabeth. I appreciate you. We're on Facebook Live right now. You can also catch these on. You can also catch me on Instagram. I post videos every now and again. I'm trying to get shorter with those. Wow. And also, I fly all these videos over to YouTube. I'm 4 in the rears right now after this one. But I have downloaded them, and I have to go ahead and get them uploaded to YouTube. And also, I post content to Medium, write a lot of articles, and hopefully we can... hopefully if you get a chance to, and you want to read some of the things that I've been putting out for years, you get a chance to make your way over there. You know, if you get any sort of appreciation out of what I do and you just want to Salt Bae your boy with a little bit of live and toss a little bit of coinage in the collection plate, you can always hit me up on Cash App at Donna King. Donna King. And then also, you can join the Patreon family, winner, if you would like to. At Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. Proceeds that go to building this up to a larger platform. I want to reach as many people as I can before I'm out of this flesh suit. Don't know how much time I have in it, and it's a lot of work to be done. It's a lot of work to be done. So, I'm just trying to knock it out as best I can, and hopefully, when the dust settles, I'll have done my part. Hopefully, when the dust settles, I'll have done my part. But even in that, I claim to have no special knowledge. It is what it is. So, yeah. That being said, we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Well, Sister Elizabeth, I definitely appreciate you for tuning in. I didn't see anybody else comments, but, hey, we get it done. Whether it's 1 million people watching, whether it's one person watching, it's always going to, or whether it's nobody watching, it's always going to be the same intensity. It's always going to be the same effort to convey. It's always going to be just going to be consistent. I appreciate you. I love you. I'll talk to you in a few. You have a good night.